my kid needs more care, like a higher level of care, but I don't want them to go through that. And so what do I do? Alrighty, y'all. So this is a super hard and a super nuanced question. And so I'm going to give you very broad ideas of how I generally try to handle this. And like I said, your mileage may vary. I always like to set the stage that there is no wrong answer, and my job is to try to meet the parents where they are. So, in other words, it's very rare that I just like try to put my foot down and go, "You do what I say." I don't do that. I'm not a paternalistic medicine kind of guy. I mean, people, you'll hear me say this a million times, and I'm sure it's going to get me in trouble at some point, but people have the right to make their own, people have the right to make bad choices as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else. And so, in this regard, waiting to get a higher level of care is not the best idea. But as long as the kid is not in danger, then my job is to support and advise as best as possible. And so, in particular situations where a kiddo is not self-harming, they're not harming others, but they are, destroying property. They are being kind of aggressive, being disrespectful. If they are, cursing and lying and sneaking things. Sometimes it's even using substances that they should not be using, but they're using in such a way that is not a risk of self-harm. All of those things fall into this weird middle gray world. And sometimes doing a program that is more structured, like an intensive outpatient program or a partial hospitalization program, can be really helpful. For some kids, you even want to do, especially kids if they're using substances, you will consider something called a RTC, a residential treatment center or residential treatment facility. And all of those are very, I mean, let's just put it bluntly, they are disruptive to a kid's typical schedule, because a kid's typical schedule is they're at home, right? And each of these different programs have different requirements for attendance and like involvement. And so like RTC or RTS, they require a kid to be there overnight. And so if I ever have to make that recommendation, I don't make it lightly, because being away from home can be very, again, disruptive. It disrupts the relationship between the kid and the parent. It disrupts the relationship between the kid and their school. It disrupts the relationship between the kid and their neighborhood friends. And so, in other words, if I'm going to say, you know what, I think you need to consider doing a treatment, a higher level treatment program, then it's probably because I see that there are some major hiccups going on. And so if parents disagree, because again, I give you the right to say you don't want to do that. I give you the right to say you want to exhaust other things. That's totally fine. My job is, in that case, is I give them other options. We get really really creative, and I won't even go through all the creative things, because again, I don't know where this video is going to end up in the world of the internet. And so I don't want somebody to see this and go, oh, I'm going to do that. And well, no, these things are very curated and specific. And so I'm going to leave out a lot of those details. But in the event that the parents are like, nope, we don't want to do that, then we get creative. And the key to everything, whether you put a kiddo in a residential program or you let them stay home, the key is consistency. It is making sure that they have a schedule throughout the day, most times making sure that schedule is visible and visual. And I laugh because people underestimate the power of consistency and structure, and adults especially, because they're just like, well, I'll let my kid do whatever. And I'm like, think about your job. Do you just go to work and just do whatever and get paid whenever and you're assessed however? Of course not. When you got hired onto that job, they gave you a job description, they put you through training, maybe. They do performance reviews. They give you feedback. They tell you what time to show up. They give you an hour lunch. Some jobs will actually track you, and then you clock out. And That's all structure, y'all. It's all structure. It's just built in. It's so built in that you don't even see it. And so anytime you're working with a kid, that's the same level of structure that you have to use, especially if you choose not to put your kiddo in a elevated level of care. And so, in conclusion for this week, if your kid needs more care, but you don't want to put them in a placement, then talk to your team about building as much structure and consistency as possible.